Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are based in. Thank you for taking time to join us in today's workshop. We're going to talk about building dApps with Substrate Connect like client with the speaker Nikos from Parity Technologies today. But before I pass the time to him today, essentially just a quick shout out and reminder for those who are joining us today's session. If you have yet joined us at the next stop of the Polkadot Hackathon Global Series, which is the North America edition, what you could do is just kind of pick up your phone and scan the QR code to register for the hackathon itself, which essentially will line you up with all the awesome materials that we do have for you, similarly with the prize pool that we do have. But Sophia will probably drop in the registration link as well as we move along, which will be something that you can click on. Thank you, Sophie, as well. So just a quick cover up of what the hackathon will be. Essentially, we do have 5 main categories which you can select for participation to submit your projects for. I'm not going to run too much into the details, but essentially 5 categories would be interfaces and experiences, DAO and governance, Web3 and tooling, DeFi, and last but not least, NFTs, which are the 5 main buckets which you can select for your project submission for the hackathon itself. What we have also done up is to include various ecosystem teams who have contributed to challenges, of which are bounties that you can pick up to integrate into your main category that you are submitting the projects for. Essentially, the idea here is to leverage on each of your individual expertise and knowledge in different areas when it comes to building a blockchain, where you can utilize one or more ecosystem team challenges to be integrated to your main project, just to make sure that it covers the innovation piece of what you're trying to submit for it. So we do have lots of ecosystem teams. As a matter of fact, we do have 17 of them so far. And one that I would like to call out for is really the one that is branded together with Subquery, Moonbeam, Akala, and Hydra DX, where they have came together to provide a bounty for you to work on in terms of your challenge as well. As of today, right now, we have a total prize pool of 613,000 USD. Partial of the prize pool, which is funded by the Polkadot Treasury, goes to the category prizes, where overall winner will be walking away with 30,000 USD with Hackathon swag box and discount for Substrate Runtime Academy. And each of the category that you see earlier on there will be a first, second, and third place team winner, walking away with 20,000, 15,000, and 10,000 USD respectively. And last but not least, we're going to empower the wider audience, be it your friends, your colleagues, your family members, to actually put up a vote for you to actually crown the community choice, of which we will be awarding 3 teams, each team walking away with 5,000 USD as well. On top of that, the remaining amount of money that is contributed to the prize pool are actually prizes awarded for each ecosystem team's challenge if you have chosen one or more to be integrated into your project submissions as well. So essentially, do pick on what you think will be most useful to the idea that you have thought out of for your project submission. And this will be a great opportunity for you to leverage on what you know and what you are great at to contribute into the project submissions essentially as well. So last but not least, just kind of a call out for some of the remaining events scheduled for the rest of about 3.5 weeks at the hackathon. Number 1 will be the virtual networking and team discussion, which will be happening in Gather Town. This is actually a virtual space that we have created for all the participants to actually drop off in to kind of use it as a space for you to have team discussion with your own teams. But if not, it's just a place for you to hang out. And essentially, these spaces are open on every Monday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. PST time, and every Thursday at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. PST time, also on Gather Town, of which the access link could be found on the hackathon calendar that you could save the moment you have registered for the hackathon. Apart from that, we do have quite a fair bit of ecosystem teams workshops for the rest of this week at various timings. So do check out the hackathon calendar or even the participants guide for you to know all the information that you need to know just so that you do not miss out, and to kind of book your time for a particular sessions that you are particularly interested in as well. Lastly, we do have mental office hours running from now to the end of the hackathon, which closes on the 11th of July. You can see on the page right now that there are a couple of dates, and similarly, the dates will actually be found on the hackathon calendar as well. Lastly, before I wrap up, and passing the time to Nikos, here is a quick reminder that Hacker House is happening in New York City, Brooklyn, next week actually, and we do have a few more spots left, which you can register to secure your spot today. What you can do is either to click the registration link, thank you, Sophie, or scan the QR code that you see over here. Essentially, is to confirm your spot at the Hacker House, and the moment you have actually registered, we will send you certain information that you will need to know by this week, before the week ends as well. There are lots of workshops from a number of ecosystem teams. There's going to be networking night. There's going to be fun and games, and definitely opportunities for you to do hacking on the project submissions that you are working for the hackathon. And we do have quite a number of mentors that's going to be there in person to guide you along on a daily basis, just to make sure that your projects have great progress, and essentially for you to kind of ensure that you have the right help and all as you kind of work along your project submissions as well. So just a quick recap on registration methods. Either you can scan the QR code to get yourself registered, or you can head over to devpost.com. Once you click on the hackathon, just click on join hackathon, and this will be where you will be able to submit your projects, to form your teams as well, and find out all the detailed information about the hackathon. Similarly, that there are 3 main steps that you need to take note of once you have registered. One will be joining the Polkadot Discord server. That's where we have the hackathon channel. And similarly, for you to actually participate at the announcements and any of the technical help where various ecosystem teams and Parity Technology folks will be around to help you. Read the Hacker's Guide, which will only be available upon your registration. And last but not least, to save the hackathon calendar as well. So a participant guide, essentially, it's a consolidated resource for you to make reference to throughout the hackathon. Here's a screenshot of what you will have in terms of information for the participants guide. So this will be something that will be going to be handy and essentially your guide to everything leading up to all the way to submission period as well. So that's pretty much from my end. I'd like to pass the time to Nicholas and going through the content for today. Just a quick reminder that if you have any questions for him, do drop it in Ask a Question box. This will be a good opportunity for you to ask him any questions based on the content that he's going to cover today, and we will take on the questions towards the end of it as well. So, Nicholas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Justin. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Let me just try to share my screen. I don't know if everybody can see, anyone can see my screen. I hope you can. So my name is Nikos. I'm glad to be here. I'm a JavaScript application developer at Parity Technologies, and this presentation is about unstoppable apps and light clients, or simply how to build really decentralized apps with Substrate Connect. In this presentation, I will give an intro on the node types of blockchain and light clients. I will explain the problem that we currently have concerning UIs, blockchain UIs, and the solution that Substrate Connect gives. What is and what comes with Substrate Connect, and then we will see some examples of a simple integration, how to work with Substrate Connect, and some code and demos. First of all, I want very fast to pass through to talk about the team and some milestones we have gone through, or simply who is who and when was what. So the team, we're currently a team of 4 in Substrate Connect, led by Pierre. We're building Substrate Connect, the tools that comes with Substrate Connect and small.light clients. Of course, more people were participating in the past in the team. Concerning the dates, I would like to go through some milestones really fast, I promise that, on how we landed to today. So the first of the attempts of the light client started back in 2018, and until the end of 2019, after a working prototype and rewriting of the code, the smaller light client was created at the beginning of 2021. Substrate Connect project started to build on top of smaller light client. By April, we had our first MVP ready, and by July, we were integrated with Polkadot.js app. So if you try to connect to Polkadot.js apps on the sidebar, you can see that there is a light client, as you can see on the screen, that you can actually use already the light client in the application. At September, we added the support for parachains, and by October and Sub-Zero event, we had Substrate Connect ready for production and shipping as an NPM package, and a little later in Chrome Store and Mozilla add-ons. After that, we proceeded with some API changes that removed the dependencies we had of Polkadot.js and led to the creation of a Substrate Connect provider, which we will see later on. And as our next steps, we are all about fixing bugs and performance, redrawing the UI, and adding new features. Now, I want to kick this off with just an assumption. I'm assuming that you all know a few things about blockchains. Having said that, I will start by talking a bit about node types, light clients, or simply parts of a blockchain. So the node types in the network is the type of each node depends on different characteristics. So a full node, it's not really a type, depends on the context, what you call a full node. It's a node that does not fulfill any of the characteristics that are following on the rest of the nodes. We have the validator node, which is configured to potentially produce blocks. We have the JSON RPC node, which gives public access to its JSON RPC endpoint. We have the boot node, whose address can be found in the chain specification of the node of the chain, and it's necessary to kick off the network. We have the archive node, which stores the entire state of the chain at each block since Genesis block 0, and useful to access all historical data of the chain. And we have the light client or light node that doesn't store the entire state of the chain, but requests it on demand. And this is the one we care about in this presentation. So what exactly is a light client, a light node? Okay, and it is a light client. And I cannot stretch that enough. I mean, this is a light implementation of a full node. It is a client that is lighter than a full node in terms of memory consumption, number of threads, and code size in order to be distributed in web pages. It is a node that doesn't store the entire state of the chain, but requests it on demand, and it connects to the network and interacts in a fully trustless way with it. So just for a comparison with a full node, when you are compiling a substrate node, apologies, you obtain what is called a full node, right? It fully verifies all the blocks. It holds all the chain storage in database, holds all past blocks in its database, and in the initial startup, it can take hours to synchronize and to be ready. While a light client, and that's what Substrate Connect is using, is that it actually verifies the authenticity of blocks only. It has no database whatsoever, and it initializes in a few seconds, and we're going to see that. So let me go on and talk about the problem, or simply what's wrong with the UIs nowadays. So the problem is that the blockchain UIs are still centralized. As per the assumption I mentioned before, you all know what a blockchain is and how the network works. So just as a recap, a blockchain forms a peer-to-peer network with lots of nodes that communicate with each other. So the dApps we are mentioning all the time, these decentralized dApps are in a way still centralized. And let me explain what I mean by that. It means that the average developer is dependent on a centralized gateway in order to communicate with the network. So when a UI app is trying to connect to the network, it has kind of two ways to avoid the title centralized. So the one way is to find a publicly accessible node to connect to a third-party owned publicly accessible node client, and This may sound good and it is convenient because you just get a URL, let's say, and you just connect transparently to that. It's convenient, but it's still centralized and insecure because you never know if this URL is malicious, is has something is going on or anything. And the second way is a user control node, which means that the UI connects to a node client that the user has installed on their own machines. So as a developer, you run your own node, you connect to that, and that one is giving you access to the network. This is maybe secure because it's your node, it's trustless, connects with multiple nodes and verifies everything, but it's inconvenient because it needs an installation process and you must have the node up and running. So what is the solution that we came up that Substrate Connect is resolving actually? So the best way is to bundle that node that communicates with the network inside the UI itself, integrated inside of it. So this way, you're having a secure, trustless node that connects to multiple nodes, verifies everything, and you also have a convenient way that works transparently. So here comes Substrate Connect. This is exactly what we try to do here. So what exactly is Substrate Connect? It's a real Substrate client that runs in JavaScript. It's a JavaScript library destined for developers building front ends, similar to polkadotJS. And it's also an optional browser extension that end users can install for a huge boost in loading times, in synchronization times. Finally, it contains a light client and can be embedded in a web page, leading to browser-embedded light clients. So, in a sentence, Substrate Connect is a node bundled with UI that makes it secure and convenient to use. It provides the infrastructure to run a light client directly in the browser or in any other web-based environment, from in-browser applications to browser extensions, Electron applications, without any deeper additional configuration or, without any deeper additional programming efforts needed. So it comes as an NPM module that integrates a light client. So it supports what we call well-known chains bundled in that single package. These well-known chains are the Polkadot, Kusama, Rococo, and Westend. And if these are used, there is no further configuration needed. Just to clarify here, these are the bundle chains that come with the package, but custom chains and parachains are also supported, and we will see how in a later slide and in some code. Besides the library, we also created, and that's the separation of dependencies I mentioned earlier. We also created, for easier and faster use, a Substrate Connect provider that exists inside Polkadot RPC providers. And it can be used as is as any other provider of Polkadot.js, such as the known WS provider. In addition, a browser extension already exists in Chrome Store and Firefox add-ons, which also integrates a light client and supports the same chains mentioned before or custom chains. It provides faster sync of chains starting as soon as the browser window opens and shares the resources by using one client, one light client for all connected chains across all browser tabs. I'm going to explain a little bit the flows before going into the code. So imagine you have a browser with multiple tabs that each one contains decentralized applications that need to connect to one or more networks. So when using individual tabs, the Substrate Connect node module first check for the installed extension. If the extension is not installed, which is our case right now, it will start a light client in each of the browser tabs, as we can see here, and then sync and communicate with one or more needed networks. Of course, that may create a little problem that we're going to see right now, what its problem may be. So in order to explain that, that's a memory problem because each tab opens its own connections. Let's see this example. Let's say we have 4 tabs in our browser, and each browser raises a light client, a Substrate Connect client that connects to different networks. Now, what we see in this example is that, for example, the first and the second tabs are connecting both in Polkadot and parachain 1, plus the rest of the parachains, while third and fourth tab connects to Kusama and one extra parachain. But that makes 4 light clients running inside one browser, and browsers already have some memory issues, especially specific browser. So how we solve this? The solution for this is to share the resources through the browser extension. So what we are actually doing is that the browser extension contains one light client who is sharing the resources across all tabs. So once the browser initiates, um, the extension starts connecting with the known chains, Polkadot, Kusama, etc. And once requests start arriving to the light client, he communicates the result from the same connection to all the tabs, and it connects to extra custom chains as well, parachains, etc. So this way we are solving the multiple light clients inside each tab that is running. Now, to see this example as before, but with extension, the following slide shows what is happening. So as soon as we open the browser, which is this brown dark box, we have an extension that at once starts communicating with the known chains and synchronizing and be ready for usage. Now, when the tabs init with the dApps inside of each one, then they check if extension is installed. Of course, it is installed. And as soon as it communicates to extension, they get the responses at once, which makes much faster the boot time, the loading times of each dApp. Having said that, I explained what exactly Substrate Connect is and what are the tools that we use. I will proceed with, let's see about how an integration can happen using Substrate Connect. So we said before that one way to connect through with Polkadot.js to the network is with a user control node. But as we said, it may be secure, but it's inconvenient. So in order to do that, you need to install only the dependencies in your machine, Rust, OpenSSL, SSL, etc. Clone from GitHub the Polkadot repo, build and start the node locally, wait for node to synchronize, make sure that it's always up and running, and then you fire up your dApp. And what you do is, I'm just following the Substrate, the Polkadot.js examples. You are just importing WS provider and an API promise. You are connected to the local WebSocket URL that you have, and then you just add this provider that is created from the from Polkadot API inside the API promise create, and you get the API and communicate with the chain. In the second situation that you have a publicly accessible node, you just receive a URL that it's supposed to be trustful. You think it's trustful. How do you know if it's trustful? And what you do is following the same steps. So what you do is, again, importing the WS provider API promise, pass that trustful URL to the WS provider, pass the provider to create an API promise with the provider, receive the API, and then interact with the chain. But again, this third party could be malicious and you don't know it. So this is how I'm going to show on presentation before jumping to the code, how you can do that with integrate a live client with just one well-known relay chains, and we'll see more examples afterwards. So what you need to do is, instead of using Polkadot API, you do the Polkadot RPC provider, Substrate Connect, that we created, and you import a different provider called SC provider and the well-known chain. So you do that, and you initiate the CS provider by passing the chain that you want to connect with, the well-known chain. In this example, it's the West End. And then we request from the provider to connect. What this connect does, this function does, is if a light client already exists inside the dApp in some other part of the code, then it adds this well-known chain to the light client. If it doesn't exist, the light client, then it initiates and add the West End chain to the light client. Small dot light client that is integrated in Substrate Connect is clever enough to know if more than one instances of West End, for example, is initiated, so it doesn't reinitiate and it reuses the resources. And then you're passing that newly created provider inside API promise and receive the API and interact with the chain. I'm gonna try to jump to the code now. I hope I will be able to easily stop sharing and share my screen again. I'll go for entire screen. So Jumping to the code, what I have here is a very simple example of code that is a simple Polkadot.js application that is running on Western. It's connecting to Western and it's just showing the next finalized block on a website. I will just run the example for you to see what is going on. I'm going to run it. I'm going to make sure that you all can see what is going on. So what happened here is that I connected through with Polkadot.js to WSS Western RPC Polkadot.io a URL with WS provider, and I'm receiving the next blocks and the hashes. I have 50 peers and some more information about the chain. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop the application running, and I'm just going to replace this, let's say, malicious, which is not, of course, URL with light client. So all I have to do is replace the WS provider with from Polkadot RPC provider, Substrate Connect. I'm just going to import the SC provider and the well-known chains. So now I will just keep this for references. I'm going to create a provider that I'm going to initiate the SC provider that I just imported. And in it, as we can see, the constructor is either a custom specification, as said before, or a well-known chain type. I'm gonna request a well-known chain type, and as we said, we have Kusama, Polkadot, Rococo, and Westend. I'm gonna request for Westend, and then I'm gonna ask for the provider to connect. And of course, this is so. That's it. Now I'm gonna run the application, and if I run it inside the browser, I can see in the console that actually the light client is initiated. The chain is initiated inside the browser, the Western chain, named Western Genesis, la la la. Now it is synchronizing. We can see that JSON RPC is coming and going and everything, and we are already connected to the light client and to the node and through our browser. There are no third malicious URLs, there are no local running code or anything, and that is it. So integrating from an existing application that uses Polkadot API to the WS provider of Polkadot API to a light client that will be integrated inside our application is not more than 3 minutes work. Having said that, I will go back to my slides. Stop sharing, and I will jump back to the slides. And try to move to the next one. So we saw how we can connect with the light client to one well-known chain. Now we're going to see an example on how this is going to be just on a slide, how we can connect to a relay chain with a parachain, and we're going to see a demo afterwards on that. For your information, there is a QR code on the bottom left side that you can just go to the demo in case you scan it. So in order to do that, the code is pretty similar. So we again import the SC provider and a well-known chain from the RPC provider. We are importing the specification of the parachain into a variable, and we are creating a SC provider, but we do not connect it because we don't need to communicate with the Polkadot provider. We need to communicate only to the parachain. Then we create a parachain provider that we pass 2 parameters instead of 1. First is the stringified chain spec, and second is the provider that of the relay chain we want to connect to. Then we connect to the provider, and that's it. Then we can interact happily with the provider with through API with a parachain. I'm sorry. The next example that this is extremely useful and how simple it is to do this, to connect, is the example of multiple well-known relay chains. So one dApp that wants to connect to many chains at the same time. And we're going to see a demo of this as well. So again, same thing, SC provider, well-known chain from the RPC provider. We are connecting, as in the first demo, to the Polkadot provider, and we initiate it and getting the API. Same for Western provider this time, and then we can just communicate with both chains with different, we're using the Polkadot API and the Western API. So just to mention that all these examples that we did, they both recognize, again, if there is they identify if there is an extension installed or not. We're going to see some demos in the next few steps. Now, this is how we use, how one can use the RPC the Substrate Connect and the light clients using the RPC provided with polkadotJS. In case someone wants to not to use polkadotJS, but to use to create a library, so for library authors, they can always install, as we said, it's an npm package. They can install Substrate Connect and then extend the usage by, so you can import the create C client and the well-known chain. This is, you initiate the client, you add the well-known chain or a custom chain or everything on how to interact with the Substrate Connect that exposes the API of small client, and how to use it is in the docs. There is a QR code on the top, bottom left. You can also see how the Substrate Connect, the RPC provider of Substrate Connect is implemented. So in the repo, in the GitHub repo of RPC provider Substrate Connect, and you can see how we actually did the whole Substrate Connect implementation as an RPC provider. We're gonna have a look on some demos now. So I'm gonna again stop sharing and share my whole screen. So my entire screen. All right. So I'm gonna show off a little bit of some demos with the extension so we can understand the value of it. So as I said, the Substrate Connect extension exists in Chrome. I have added it before. I'm just initiating right now. And this is what you get. So when the extension starts, we can see that there are 4 chains already initialized, but there are no apps connected to it. So I'm going to just start again a simple demo and have a look what is going on. So I'm already synchronizing like almost less than 2 seconds, already getting blocks, and I can see that it exists in my inside the extension. So what is happening is that the extension is firing a light client in the background, and all the chains are connected through that light client. Now I'm going to do the same. I presented the parachain demo, and I presented also the code of a multi chains connectivities through one tab. So I started these demos. Hopefully they will work. So the multiple networks demo, you can see that I have already connected to Westend, Kusama, and Polkadot, and I'm receiving the latest headers of them, updating and stuff. And I have connected also to Westmint. So I have connected to Westmint through small.light client and I have received, I can see that it have 4 peers. I have the Genesis hash, and I have a beautiful error down here. So if I go now to the extension, I can see that all my applications are here running. I can see the connectivities for each chain. And if I go to the options page, I can see the state of each chain that I'm connected. So in Westend, I see the last block, I'm synchronized, how many peers, how many apps are connected to the chain. And I can also have a look on the logs of the chain and see what is going on. Another thing I can do with the extension is disconnect the chain. So if I go to this app that is still producing blocks, and I can see them printing on my screen, and I go to disconnect it, let's disconnect everything, then we'll see that suddenly my app stopped producing any new blocks. It's done, it's disconnected from the light client, and that's it. Of course, if I refresh the tab, it's gonna connect. We could also have a nice message that you got disconnected. So Yes, let me see what else I have on my presentation. Yeah, so these are the demos I wanted to show how they work with the Light client. Again, if I run the Light client without the extension, you can see that it starts inside the tab and not in the extension. So it's okay. So these are the demos I wanted to show. How can I go to the, okay. So here are some useful links in the presentation. Hopefully it will be shared with all of you. And these are the GitHub. Please feel free to add your comments, your issues. Here is the page that the landing page of Substrate Connect that we present the project we have so far. And here is on the right side, the npm.js that you can in npm.js, the packaging and how you can install it. Thank you so much. That was actually a little bit fast. And please, if you have any questions or if Justin wants to take over again.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Nico, for the presentation. I think will also be an opportunity for Nikos to actually look through us a question box, to see if there are any questions that he could answer. But I think at this point of time, I'll probably just go through some of the recap about the hackathon while Nico just kind of go through the questions over here. Just let me quickly share my screen. Uh, so just a recap on the hackathon itself. So the hackathon North America edition essentially is a 6-week hackathon from May 30th to July 11th. While it's marketed to focus on the North America region, everyone across the globe is happy to participate at the hackathon. We would love to see different teams from different parts of the world to participate at this hackathon, and to submit a project submission based on the categories that I have gone through previously, and similarly to integrate with any of the ecosystem teams challenges should any of the bounties challenges that's being put up by the ecosystem teams fit what you're trying to build at the end of the day as well. We do have a prize pool of 613,000 and potentially counting. That's up for grabs for everyone. So do utilize this opportunity to put up a project that will be equally qualified for more categories apart from the main 5 categories for submission essentially as well. So anyone that is picking up on ecosystem teams challenges, to integrate into your main project, you are essentially lined up for the ecosystem team bounty as well. Information on the amount and all, you can check them out on that post. But if not, feel free to drop them in any of the ecosystem team technical question channel that is on the Polkadot Discord server as well. We have lots of resources and mentors. We have over 40 mentors that's actually readily available to help you. So just a quick reminder for those that are building or need some help to ideate or even to get going with your projects, do appreciate you to actually block your time with the mentors ahead of time, just to ensure that the mentors are able to avail themselves for you based on the allocated time that you have actually booked from them as well. And there's networking opportunities and just a couple of reminders. One of it is to get started on Polkadot ecosystem by registering an account for Polkadot Pathways. This will be where you'll be able to go through some of the modules that's specially curated for the hackathon itself. Go through the modules and rack some points, because the top 100 scorers will actually get yourself a Polkadot swag t-shirt, which with the new rebranded logo as well. So for those who already have one, this is an opportunity for you to grab yourself a newly designed Polkadot swag t-shirt for yourself as well. Last reminder to actually scan the QR code to get yourself registered. But if not, feel free to head to devpost.com. That will be the space where you can get yourself registered. And last reminder that Hacker House will actually be happening in New York City, Brooklyn, more specifically, and the exact location will actually be in Industry City, which will be happening on June 23rd to 28th itself. The links are actually in the chat box previously, but if not, you can always grab your mobile phone and scan the QR code to secure your spot today. We do have limited number of seats at the Hacker House. And that we have lined up lots of workshops and hacking time with mentors that's going to help you in person at any point of time during the Hacker House itself. So that's pretty much it from my end. Nikos, I'll pass back to you to answer some of the questions that have popped up in the um, in the
Ask a question box.
yes. Sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Thank you, Justin. So I'm gonna try to reply to all the questions. So first one is from did we make Substrate Connect work in, say, Android or iOS environment? I have seen Substrate Connect running in the browser of iOS and Android. We haven't tried to add it in a React Native. Let's say we haven't done something like that. So I can say it runs in the browser of the device. I haven't seen it running in a like a um, native application. Then from Sasha, how would I be able to connect one application to multiple chains? Already answered. It's very simple. Actually, it's instead of writing 2 lines of code, you have to write 2 lines per chain that you want to connect, and it's really easy. It's in the demos, it's in the repos, and I can help you if you want. If you need some extra help on that, you can add an issue in the repo. Next question from Mauricio. So can a light client do some off-chain task, as in there is a feature in Substrate that you can run your node as light client. So up to now you can enable light clients to take data and fetch. I think you mean fetch data and send an exchange to the network. Yes and yes. So what you can do with the light client when you integrate in your app is exactly the same thing you can do with the polkadotJS API. So the light client is just giving you a mean of communication with the network. So all you have to do is the same APIs that you call using Polkadot.js. If you're using, of course, RPC, the RPC provider, okay, and you get the API from Polkadot.js, all requests that you can do in Polkadot.js, you can do with Light Client. And we have actually we have an application that I did not present because it's on React. I wanted to go with pure JavaScript/TypeScript. So we have a burner wallet, which you actually send transaction, send and receive tokens in West End, and it works normally. Next question is, are there any limitation which is building my app that connects to light clients, and fallback mechanism if the light client fails? What could go wrong? That's actually a very good question. And we have some issues that if small dot chain crashes, but we're planning on adding a feature that if, for example, when the chain crashes, it will initiate a process of reporting the error. It can be actually sent to GitHub as an issue. We want to do that. And you will be able to, and the Substrate Connect will reinitiate small dot. If it fails more than 2 or 3 times, then it will be like a message that you cannot use for now. You have to refresh or you have to report the issue. There are plenty of things that can go wrong. We're still fixing bugs on that. Next question from M. Howard. I must have missed it. But what is the problem you mentioned regarding why it's better to use your extension versus Polkadot.js? Well, it's not the extension. It's not a fight between extension. It's actually that using Polkadot.js, you connect to a node. You connect to a node that somebody else is running, or you're running your own node and you're connecting on it. So what is the benefit is that you are actually you're running a light node inside the browser without even realizing, like it's just runs. You just initiate it, it runs, and without worrying, you connect to the rest of the network and you communicate without having to connect to some third-party node that you don't know who owns it and what's running on it. So it's not a matter of which extension is better. And actually, this helps with the next question of Sveta. What exactly are the benefits of using extension? How quicker is the performance of a client of a client in a tab? So the benefits of the extension, and this is why it's better to use extension than the in tab client, is that while you fire up your browser, the extension already fires up and starts to communicate with the chains, synchronize. So when the dApp finally opens inside the tab, you are good to go. It's synchronized. The chains that are running, the well-known chains that are running inside the extensions, are ready to run, are ready to provide data into the dApp. While if you initiate the client in tab when the dApp initiates, then the light client, even though if it's fast, it takes few seconds to synchronize with the chains. Another feature that we have inside the extension, and it's much better to use in favor of the client in tab, is that extension, while it runs, it saves in the local storage of the browser as the latest state of the chain. So when it fires up again, it doesn't start synchronizes from the state that it has from the chain specs, but it synchronizes from the latest state that contains inside the local storage, which makes the synchronization of the extension much faster. So if you install the extension, it takes the first time, let's say 15 seconds to synchronize. The second time it will be like couple of seconds, and the more often you use it, the more or faster will be the synchronization. While if it's in tab, every time it will start from the state that the chain spec have, which means 10 seconds to synchronize. The next questioning is, what scenario I should choose Substrate Connect over Polkadot extension, vice versa? Again, this is not a fight between extensions. The difference is that Substrate Connect gives you a very easy and fast access to the network. You have to build all the communication in your dApp. You have to build, like, you have to make the sign in with your account, retrieve the account's information, while the Polkadot extension is having this integrated, and you connect to the accounts, while with Substrate Connect, you connect to the network. It's two different, you can use both of them at the same time. Could you please share links to the demos you've shown? Yes, I can. Of course I can, and I will do it as fast as I can. I don't know if Sveta talks about the demos or the code. I'm gonna try to share both in the chat. I don't know if there is any other questions. How would I be able to connect one application? I have answered both of them, so I think we're good with the questions.
All right, cool. Thanks, Nico, for your time, and thanks everyone for taking time to participate in today's workshop. Essentially, just a quick reminder, this is part of the workshops that is in line with the Polkadot Hackathon North America edition. And if you would like to find out more information, do head over to DevPost to find out more about what the hackathon is all about. But if not, you can just get yourself onto Polkadot Discord server. That will be where you'll be able to find out all the announcements that is hackathon related. And if you need help on building, the mentors will be there as well. Other than that, please have a great day ahead and happy hacking for every hackers over here. Thank you.